Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. David Corson, I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. This is what it used to look like. I'm digital now. Just pulling out some archives. This was May 2021. Derek Rogers, Director of Construction, Christian Brothers Automotive. I've got one right down the street here in Sugar Hill, but they're out of Texas. And Derek, thanks for being on the cover. And I always like looking at what the folio was. This was a 160-page issue. And got my Georgia Swarm lacrosse jersey on here. This was one of my hybrid events that I did, during, what we were going on the roller coaster a couple years back, but now that we're out. But that was, I think that was right after we were just in the playoffs. We won in 17. Anyway, the Georgia Swarm, they're our indoor lacrosse team. But it's always good to see what the magazine looked like, and it's always nice. But you know what? We stopped printing the magazine in August of 2021, and we're 100% digital. We still have a print on demand service, but just had about 7 million people in the month of June hit our site last month, 330,000 unique users. And July's a little slower month just because it's the middle dog days of summer, but we'll see what happens. I'm hoping I'll go over 10 million before the end of the year for one of those months coming up. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So for all of you out there that are consuming our content, thank you so much. You're gold in my eyes. We really appreciate it. So today I've saved the best for last. And this gentleman, he's with Concentric, and he's in technology and software for construction sites, etc. And he's the CEO founder, and his name is Steve Dell'Orto, correct?
Got it.
Thank you very much. I hate when I butcher names. Anyway, everybody calls me Carson. I always get Carson all the time, but it's Corson. So I get it. Well, Steve, say hello to our audience out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hey, thanks for having me, David, and hello to everybody out there. It's fun to be part of this and talk about construction, which is what I've lived my entire life.
Well, the way we're going to do it, Steve, is we do it in three parts. You'll tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, how you ended up where you are today, and then we'll talk about new products or services you have coming up, what your outlook is for the remainder of Q3 and Q4 of 2024, and as we go into 2025, and then you'll leave one positive thought or your phrase and your contact info with our listeners. So, with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Well, where to start? I grew up as an Army brat, lived all over most parts of the world. My dad was an officer in the Army as in the JAG Corps. And, just be able to move around and see different things, I think just really broaden the horizons at a young age. But ultimately, just did the usual progression up through college, went to the University of Virginia, grew up in my high school years, at least, we had settled down in the Northern Virginia area outside of DC. And it was really at school where, high school, where, I got more and more into construction, just summer jobs, the coaches of the different sports I played. I see the lacrosse sticks in the background. My lacrosse coach was actually one of my mentors in terms of getting involved in, the trade level. He owned a millwork shop and did a lot of high-end cabinetry, millwork, and stuff that you would see in a law firm, really high-end stuff. So I got to be an apprentice, if you will, at the shop. Did all sorts of things, drywall, worked with my uncle who was in the glass and glazing business. And so just always seemed to have my hand into construction. And then while I was at the University of Virginia, I had the good fortune of I just took this construction management class, and everybody took it because at the time, it was not part of a broader construction management program, and most people thought of it as an easy A. I was naturally interested, so I took the class, and pretty early on in the class, the professor Joe Howe said, "Hey, raise your hand if you're interested in going on a field trip to go see a construction site." He was affiliated with the company at the time, just friendships. And I didn't want to raise my hand, even though I wanted to go, because nobody else raised their hand. Everybody was in for the easy grade, and they didn't want to be bothered with going to a dirty site. So I went up to him afterwards and I said, no, I'd really love to go check it out. And so we did. And when I showed up to the front gate, the project exec running the job asked me if I was there for the interview for the internship. And I said, well, I'm here for a job site tour with Professor Howe, but yeah, sure, I'm interested. So we did an interview right then and there, and I got hired probably within 24 hours. And
Boom.
that was the start of my career in the early 90s, which was great because then it turned out that I was working so many hours while still a full-time student that that same project executive converted me to a full-time salaried position. And I thought, hey, I must be doing great if he wants that. And it turned out, he told me 5 years later, it was just because I was racking up such a big bill with overtime, time and a half. It
Yeah.
was his way to save a few bucks. So anyway, I still had a career at a time when all my friends in college were all, getting rejected because it was a time of a pretty deep recession. But
Mhm.
that was the start of my career. And I did that with that same company for 26 years.
So, how did you end up where you are today?
That's a good question. So, I started out with that company in a more operational role. So the typical project management superintendent out on the job site, building the work. Um, I was tapped to move out west where the company had this very, very small, bit of an outpost, but with a high growth potential. And so I moved out with the company to really help grow a new region within the company on the Western Seaboard. And it was a great experience. As I grew there, I was still overseeing work, but then I was starting to be, in I guess, the middle third of my tenure, I was responsible for the cradle to grave, win over the customer, go through all the planning and pre-construction, and then ultimately manage the team to build the job. So end to end. And that grew like as a portfolio of projects and accounts, and then ultimately wound up at that very, I don't know, last 5, 6 years of my time there as, overall leadership of this region that went from a few $100 million a year in revenue. It's just basically add up the size of the project accounts really, and grew that to 2 billion. And we were able to sustain that $2 billion revenue mark for 5 or 6 years straight. Um, Through that process, though, or through the career growth, you just see things. You see patterns, and what I was consistently seeing was when you're out there managing the project in the construction phase, you have a lot of tools at your disposal, a lot of standard operating procedures, et cetera. And most everybody gravitates to doing that. And there was far less structure, there was far less technology. And as far as a career path goes, not nearly the I guess the celebrated positions or role, doing all the estimating and pre-construction, the procurement, all the front end work. And I was like, that just doesn't make any sense. That is the phase that clearly through the plan, you're setting the table for success for everybody. You're creating a bond and a relationship with your customer, your client. The partnership of the design team is being, developed during this period of time. And you're able to take all your great ideas and strategies and how to make something go better, smoother, safer, whatever, and really design and plan all of that into the project. Because after that point, going forward, you're just kind of executing a plan that, has been developed by others, or God forbid, you're flying by the seat of your pants, which I think too many projects still do to this day. But I really, really got focused on the front end of the business because I knew that's exactly where we could make a huge difference. And we did. We grew our profitability by 44% just by really honing in on our attention into, helping with the design process and just everything involved in planning. And the frustrating part of it was we were doing amazing projects. Salesforce Tower, still the tallest building west of Chicago, the Golden State Warriors Arena during their dynasty run. I mean, just really incredible projects up and down the Western Seaboard, Seattle to San Diego. But it took everything that we had in terms of talent and just face time and on a plane constantly, because it was just purely a human effort, and there was no underlying technology or system of record. And you've got incredible amounts of very usable, impactful data. You've got workflow that most people think are just getting kind of made up as it goes along, but that's not how it really works. But if you could do something a little bit more tech forward and data driven, you could really, really have some dramatically better results. And so I, basically left to start up Concentric to go solve that, problem. I figured, hey, if you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. And so that's what I went out and did. I started up a technology company, left my executive post to do it, and it's been a fantastic success ever since.
What did your dad do in the armed forces? He was in the army, right?
He was in the Army. He started out in artillery, and then took advantage of the programs that the government offered in terms of going to law school. So we went on to law school, St. John's in New York, and ultimately had an enormously successful career, ultimately ending up as the Deputy General Counsel and Interim General Counsel for the entire Department of Defense through 3 different administrations.
Yeah, my grandfather was underneath Patton in World War II. He was a combat engineer. He rebuilt all of the bridges that the Allies took out during
Yeah,
WW2. And we got some great old 8mm videos that we've converted to digital. But of after the war, we were recycling all the tanks and Jeeps and all that stuff in the scrapyard. And but anybody that's military, we thank your dad for his service,
yeah,
number one. But I know what it's like to be, coming from a military family, and all that. So I learned at a young age how to put the flag up and take it down and fold it correctly, and
yeah,
yes sir, no sir, may I be excused, and so. I get it, but what a good story.
yeah.
You were going out on a field trip with your professor, you got a job, and then you stayed there, and then you bit the entrepreneurial apple, and you're still standing today.
That's
And
right.
and you're a lacrosse guy too. It's amazing,
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yep. Played a little bit in high school, and the typical like fraternity, drink beer on the sidelines, and happen to go play a lacrosse game in that circuit. But I've been coaching my daughters. My 2 daughters are fantastic lacrosse players, and just pitched in and started coaching about 8 years ago. So that's kind of like the second chapter of the lacrosse story, if you will. But it's really all about my daughters.
hey, lacrosse is all about project management as far as I'm concerned, because you will play as you practice all, on game day, and you got offense, you got defense, you've got, you got the goalie, there's a game plan, but then someone gets hurt and you got to go in and readjust. You got to be flexible. It's just like a
Sure.
construction site. You got moving parts. You want to make everything, and the total goal is to win or complete the project. So I always like talking to athletes because they understand winning and losing. They understand what it takes to become a winner and a champion, and that you're going to you're going to make mistakes, and you got to learn from them. And yeah, and practice, it's all about practice. But if you're not practicing correctly, you get bad habits, and those are the worst things, especially shooting. You know, if
Yeah,
you can shoot all day, but if you don't hit the net, you ain't going to score. That's
that's
just the
right.
reality of it. So, and a lot of people don't. The 100% of the shots that you don't take don't go in the net.
Don't
So
go in.
and I always like take the shot, man. Take the shot, and make sure you hit the net because rebounds
Yeah.
go in too. So, well, let's talk about uh, when you started your firm. Did you have a vision for it? I mean, you had a vision for it, but talk about how you started your firm. From scratch. You left your firm, and how did
Yeah.
you bring on people, and how did just talk about that aspect of it.
Yeah, I was lucky, sometimes being in the right place at the right time counts. I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So, if you think about Silicon Valley and the mecca of technology and the whole startup world. So after I left my former company and I was figuring out how to start up a startup, I just had a lot of people within my friend network that, outside of the construction industry that were in some way, shape, or form involved and plugged into the whole startup scene. And so, I just kind of went to school with them, just asking them and learning anything that I could from them. But, the thing that I found really cool was that in construction, because you're competing on price and you're constantly, you're always holding your cards very close to your vest. And, you know, the last thing you're probably going to do is go help a competing general contractor. But, in this case, I had people going way out of their way to make introductions, share information with me, etc. That it's just a testimony to a network. And if you just think of it like I'm a big team guy, lacrosse, everything, team sport. So you just had people there because at some point in time, maybe I helped them with something. But anyway, um, I just had to learn it and figure it out on the fly. Ultimately, too, I got involved as a venture partner in a venture capital fund that was focused on digitizing um, uh, antiquated industries, construction being one of them. So we connected actually through an associate they had at the time that was involved in the pre-construction of one of our big projects. And so that person saw firsthand the challenges in how this process is working. And so when he and I connected and I told him what I was doing, he made that introduction to the general partner of the venture capital fund. And he was a fantastic mentor himself. He just said, "Hey, here's the three things to, get you started." And, just followed up on those. And that was, you need to build up a team that understands the technology side of the business, because I sure can't write code. Um, a few other things. And so it's just like you start to piece the plan together. But yeah, what you had to do is keep moving forward. You had to just, I just had to keep moving forward, do this, progress, not perfection. And ultimately, um, uh, built up a fantastic team that we have today. We're 21 people strong now. But, you're just, anytime some talent came by, that was going to be a good fit for the company, you just found a way to make that work. And that way you could bring them on, keep building up the team of experts. But you have to have vision too. And, with 26 years in the business, you see a lot. I think anybody coming to build software, innovate the construction industry, coming from the outside, I don't know how that really works. Our business is so unique, it's so nuanced that the only way to really do it right is to have the experience, having built something, been part of the team and part of the process. And some people have been in it for 2 or 3 years and they build a very successful app, and that's fantastic. But what I set out to do was really tackle the entirety of the problem, because I felt, and still do to this day, that the power of a platform where you can take all the different things that you're doing in pre-construction, all of that data and all the conversations and collaboration that needs to occur, and really interconnect that and integrate it into one environment, into one platform for people to do work. That's where the power and the synergy becomes immensely valuable to everybody. And so, I have the vision for how all that needs to work, but at the same time, it's a loose, flexible vision in that we've surrounded ourselves with some fantastic customers. They're experiencing the same pain points, but they may have a different take on how to solve it. So if we can take our ideas, merge them with their ideas, then we're really solving the best of the best. Or doing the best of the best in terms of solving and bringing something to the industry that's really going to really uh, make the dent in the universe, as Steve Jobs once said.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I broke ground on my empty nester house back right after Memorial Day weekend, and my wife's an interior designer, residential contractor. Anyway, got the land cleared. Engineer came out, put the stakes down, and then I was getting ready to have the concrete guys come out. And you can look at blueprints and CAD drawings all day long, but until you see the land cleared, then it's a whole thing. So I went out and the grader was there and he's like, Dave, you should hang out and watch what I'm doing here. I'm like, yeah, because I'm actually covering it in the magazine editorially. So first beginner house and it's anyway. So I go, he goes, what are you spraying there? He goes, oh, that's the corner of your basement. I'm like, aren't you going to dig? He's like, no, man, this is it. And I told you we're going to have to bring in dirt. I'm like, Red. His name's Brian, but he has red hair, so we call him Red. I'm like, Red, how many truckloads of dirt am I gonna have to bring in there? And he's like, 250. And he goes, also, the county inspector, they changed my address and I had this like circular drive and they made me put my drive on the main drag and the slope was just way too steep. It was like a roller coaster. So I called my wife. I said, honey, Houston, we have a problem. You got to come up here. And what are we going to do? So it took me about 4 months to go through the permitting process. First, they made me change my address. Then they had this and that. So fine, I got my permits done and I'm just cruising right along. I'm like, okay, clear it and, get the concrete foundation, sticks and frame, roof, wrap, get it dry before the end of the summer. And then I'm going to bring her crew in and we're just going to crank this freaking thing out. Then the basement was there. And so I've been waiting a month to get three revisions. All I did was swap the garage and the master bedroom, and I took the basement out because I just didn't need that. It was an empty nester house. I already had the trophy house. I didn't want that, and it was really for my mom. She's 85. I said, look, if you want a place to stay, we'll have a little casita for you, a kitchen and whatever. But I was like, I'm not going through this. I'll just put the slab down, get rid of the basement. We'll get the plans revised, and we'll go in it. So I just wrote the county today in the health department. I was like, you guys stamped the LGP, the septic tank on July 3rd. Okay. It's now the 18th. What am I waiting for? My grader just called me. If I don't get the grader out there next week, I'm gonna have to wait almost 3 weeks for him to come back. You're killing me. I've already lost a month. But the thing that I found out was the health department doesn't talk to the water department. The water department doesn't talk to the permitting department. And they've all been there for like 20 years, but they don't know what everybody does. And it's the worst collaboration I've ever seen in my life. And so I just wrote the guy, I said, Garrett, yeah, the thing's stamped. I'm waiting for a piece of paper. Okay. Don't tell me it takes 20 days. This should have been done. And so I'm going to write about it in my publisher's column. I told him, I said, I'm going to tell you, but I'm in construction. I'm going to tell you guys that you guys, as a municipality, you guys don't communicate. You can make so many things streamlined if you use technology. And it like I said, you can go but until you experience it, it's just it's unbelievable. And but technology, there are contractors out there still using slide rules, and that have no idea or don't even have a smartphone. But if they would use technology, it is just unbelievable where construction could go,
Sure.
and so
That's
guys like
us.
yeah, well, like I said, entrepreneurs like you that go in and they see a need and they have a vision, which is exactly what you did, and you went in and now you're helping with that, pre-construction procurement site gig. And if you don't get that done, the rest of your project's not going to, go through. I had a project manager firm one day. He goes, your finger's like this. Your fingernail's the construction process, or you're basically the planning part of it. The rest of it's building and then the facility maintenance and maintaining it and all that kind of stuff. But once this is done, if this isn't done right, the rest of this is not going to go good. And it kind of just sat with me for a long, long time. And uh, but congratulations on having the vision and being able to weather the storm as we've all been in and come out of it, and then surrounding yourself. I always tell knowing people, you never know where you're going to get your next knowledge nugget of value that you're going to be able to apply. And you're right. You don't want to have your competitors aren't going to tell you, they're not going to give you any, help because, but if you, with the people that you did, here you are, you're still
Yeah.
standing. And so congratulations, it's
Thank
like,
you.
it's like a franchise, a new lacrosse team coming in, or a club team that went up to D1, 2, or 3 level in lacrosse, and it's still played the same, but it's different. You know, there's much more to it. And um, anyway, you know, let's talk about construction. So we're in the middle of the year. Uh, are you bullish or bearish as far as what you see out there? And what do you see coming down the pike, you know, from a technology point of view?
I'm bullish. I mean, in any given year, any given cycle, you're just going to be dealing with the ups and downs. Where we are in that is like typically anybody's guess. But at the macro level, what we know is population growth is set to be exceed 25% by 2040. So that's like adding 80 million people to our country. At the same time, in our industry in construction, we have the baby boomer generation retiring, et cetera. And so we are seeing a huge growing deficit in the available people that know how to do whatever it is. It could be laying brick or it could be doing estimating and pre-construction. Across the board, not enough people, or actually a reduction in headcount, a reduction in years of experience that's basically available. So you have demand going up and you got the available resource to meet the demand going down. And this gap between the two is ever widening. Big problem, big problem. So, what I'm focused on is what can we do to be a force multiplier, because you can't recruit your way or retrain or reskill your way to close the gap when you're talking about millions and millions of people. You've got to be able to enable a person to do a heck of a lot more and a heck of a lot more important stuff. And the easiest thing to do is really take the mundane, tedious task work, which probably consumes 90% of their capacity, and have, the computer or technology do that on their behalf and free the human up to do what the human does best. But the scary challenge for builders is, how are you going to address that growing demand, and how are you going to stay ahead of the technology curve? Because, the slide rule guys and the guys without a smartphone, they're toast. You're done.
Yeah.
You're going to wake up and realize you're dead 3 years from now. You know, the world has moved right past you. And so the people that get it, they need to very quickly accelerate, because technology and the pace at which it starts to evolve things happens at an exponent. It's a increasing at an increasing rate.
Yeah.
And so it's all about keeping up and getting ahead. And those who do will win big.
Yeah, we're huge in about the labor gig. My son, he went. We yanked him out of school his senior year, and I did homeschool him because they wouldn't put him in the shop class because he didn't have the math. And I said, look, if there's one kid out of the 3,500 kids that go to this high school that you need to put in here, it's him. He wants to work with his hands. He's flipping cars and motorcycles. He wants to learn this. And anyway, he went to aeronautics school. So he got his A&P license, and he spent 3 years at Boeing. Now he's down in a regional jet center working on Pilatus. I think this afternoon. He'll be coming home soon, but he did the trade school route.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
but I'm all about filling the gaps, because I know that if we don't have welders, we don't have HVAC techs, superintendents, project managers, estimators, this country's built on construction. If we don't
Yeah,
get something about it, I know a lot of kids want to hang out at Florida State on the new commons with the pool and all that. It's all cool. I understand it, but you can be an awesome career, a millionaire, being a plumber or a welder or whatever, and we need
absolutely.
those people out there. So. Uh, I am right there with you. The gap is widening, and trying to get these guys to go out and and they are, but that entitlement thing is also, "Oh, I want to be the president." All right, no, you got to start at the bottom. You got to learn how
Right,
to do everything. You're not gonna be able to, you're not gonna be able to plan a project if you don't know how it works.
right.
So uh, that's a really good point. So, and I want you to know my head is right there with you. If someone wanted to, reach out to you and bounce some questions off you about the, your software with pre-construction and so forth, how would they get in touch with you?
I mean, LinkedIn is fantastic. They can just hit me up directly, and we can go from there. If somebody's interested in learning more about my company, Concentric, they can go to our website. It's ConCntric.com. Those are the two best avenues to connect with us. And um, we meet a lot of great people, and the interest. What's always great is the light bulb goes off once they see it, and they realize, yeah, holy, I'd never really stopped to think about how I do things, how archaic it is. And man, my life, work-life balance, if nothing else, I can completely, rebalance if, I start to leverage and embrace technology. And sometimes it's not up to the individual themselves, but it is up to the individual to kind of take the mantle and run with it and champion the cause within your company because somebody has to affect that change. Otherwise, like I said, the rest of the companies that do it are going to blow right by you.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. So listen, the way that Steve got on here, once again, his publicist sent me a press release, sent me a note. I said, "Oh wow, I love technology. We have a technology column in the magazine. Love to have him on here." And here we are, we're having a discussion. He's a lacrosse guy, man ball. Here's your help. So it's just the way it works. So if you don't send me something, I can't look at it. And that's how you get on here. If anybody wants to reach me, you can get me at davidc@ccr-mag.com. Send me something. Don't judge a book by its cover. We look at everything. We post stuff all day. We're content creators. Could be a new product announcement. It could be, your anniversary of your company. It could be a project profile that you're doing. Just send me that stuff. We look at it. We post it. We send you the URL. It's good for your SEO, search engine optimization. That's how Google finds you, and it's win-win. And we love content. We're addicted to it. And like I said, we're posting all day. Very tough to get in the magazine. However, we got umpteen million social media channels and places where we can put this stuff. So send it to us and let us take a look at it. Uh, so, Steve, as we finish up, if there was one positive thought or phrase that you'd like to leave with our listeners out there, what would it be as we go into the remainder of Q3 and Q4 and close out this year?
Yeah, I think just from the construction perspective and kind of merging that common background we have with the love of lacrosse. I mean, construction is very much a team sport. And these buildings, they don't build themselves and it's not one individual, it's a whole team of people and different backgrounds and expertise. So everybody should be approaching their career and the building of a project with the team in mind and being a good teammate and being a good leader among a team. And that's how these things work out very successfully.
I always say, remember, there's no I in team. All right. You're
That's
not going to
right.
be able to do it all yourself. You need help, people to fix it. You made one other comment, a couple of minutes ago about perfection, progress. On my run, I always do a little cool down and I do my little thought of the day. And my thought of the day the other day was, uh, perfection is not the goal. Consistency is.
Right.
And if you're consistent, you're going to have the stats on your side and you're just going to be that much more successful. So that, I just want to tell you when you said that, I was like, oh, didn't I just say that the other day? So anyway,
Good for you.
I'm telling you, I talk to sports guys, they always say the same thing, and I'm like, oh, I just said that the other day. So a couple things before we end our episode here is number one, if you're out there on the construction site, we want you to be safe. I want you to get home, be able to have dinner with your spouse, your partner, your wife, your kids, whatever, and be able to get up and do it the next day. Number two, it's still hot out there. And even during the winter, you got to stay hydrated. This is the athlete talking. If you get dehydrated, you get headaches. When you get headaches, you get hurt. So make sure you're drinking lots of water, put some electrolytes in there, Gatorade, whatever. Stay hydrated. Okay. You'll sleep better at night, you'll feel better, and you'll be able to, get more done. And last but not least, hit the like button so we can get the algorithms out there so we can get Mr. Steve's story out here and so he can be seen out there on the web. So Steve, pleasure meeting you. You know what? Look,
Likewise.
if I come out there, I'm bringing my lacrosse stick, and we'll
Go
go do
play
some
it.
wall ball or something. You know what I
There you
mean?
go. We'll show you some West Coast lacrosse.
Yeah. Hey, listen, lacrosse anywhere in this country right now is good. It's not just the Long Island, Baltimore thing.
Yeah, I tell you.
California lacrosse, it's pretty darn good. So, uh,
All right.
well, with that said, Steve, sign off from the West Coast. Say goodbye to our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Appreciate it. Everybody have a great weekend, or hopefully it times out on a Friday when you watch the podcast. But thanks for having me on, Dave, and you have a great weekend.
No, we appreciate it. And I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just below the Beaufort Dam by Lake Lanier. It's about 25 miles north of Atlanta. Everybody have a great rest of the TGIF. enjoy your weekend, relax, get some REM sleep, get all really your negative thoughts, and get ready for another fantastical week next week. And you know how it goes. Got to get up early, get in the shower, put your smile on, have that winning attitude. And before you know it, it'll be TGIF again. So with that said, everybody stay cool the rest of the summer. Steve thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and everybody, we'll catch you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Steve, you're great. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.